Hello, you're watching Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Harrison-Pless. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, the green light from South Africa's High Court. Former gold miners who contracted lung disease allegedly caused by years of working underground can now sue the mining companies they worked for. It could be the largest class action in the country's history. Central African Republic rolls out the red carpet for French President François Hollande. A whirlwind visit before heading to Nigeria, where a regional summit on the battle against Boko Haram kicks off this Saturday. And fusing the Anglophone and Francophone cultures of Africa through music. DJ and producer Benjamin Lebrave joins me in the studio to talk modern musical sounds from the continent. Well, that's a little bit later. First up, it could be the largest class action in South African history, with the country's trade unions hailing the move as a huge victory. South Africa's High Court has ruled that former gold miners who contracted lung disease, allegedly caused by years of working underground, can now sue the mining companies they worked for. The lawsuit could involve up to tens of thousands of people, with cases going back decades. Well, for more on this story, let's bring in our South Africa correspondent, Aisha Ismail. She's in Cape Town for us. Aisha, a good evening to you. Now, the ex-miners say they contracted an incurable lung disease called silicosis because they rarely worked with proper protective gear. Tell us more.
Good evening, Rochelle. This is certainly a groundbreaking judgment, but sadly, for thousands of mine workers who have died over the years from this respiratory disease, it has come too late. Many mine workers caught silicosis, which has no known cure, from inhaling the silica dust while drilling rock. Now, the dust lodges in the lungs and causes permanent scars. And some of the symptoms include persistent coughing and shortness of breath, and the disease regularly leads to tuberculosis and to death. So, as I said, certainly a groundbreaking judgment, but sadly, for those thousands of mine workers, it has really come too late.
Well, Aisha, this is a huge case that really puts pressure on the country's mining industry. What's the reaction been from some of the mining companies?
Well, the mining company said in a statement earlier today that they are studying the court judgment. And of course, this judgment paves the way for tens of thousands of miners from the poorest rural areas in South Africa and also Southern Africa to be financially compensated. And the interesting thing is that the judge made a point today by saying that mining work dating back to 1965 was covered by this ruling. But some legal experts say that the 32 mining companies may want to settle out of court, or they may even want to appeal the judge's ruling. So it would appear that relief for the affected miners is still far from over. But in a separate case in South Africa earlier this year, more than 4,000 silicosis victims and their families won a $32 million settlement from two mining companies. So it's going to be interesting to see what and how the 32 mining companies are going to deal with today's judgment, whether they're going to settle out of court or whether they're going to appeal this judgment.
Indeed. Thanks very much for that update there, Aisha. Aisha Ismail reporting from Cape Town in South Africa. Next, the Central African Republic rolled out the red carpet for the French president this Friday. François Hollande on a whirlwind trip, meeting the country's new leader, Faustin Archange Touadéra. France wanting to help its former colony get back on its feet after years of sectarian violence. Well, the visit comes amid a gradual French military drawdown, with the Operation Sangaris due to end in December. Ben Barnier reports.
François Hollande visiting Bangui while some French soldiers in the Central African Republic are packing. France is scaling down its military operation in the country.
Our armies are needed on other fronts, still in the Sahel region, as well as in Syria and Iraq. France is and always will be there for the Central African Republic.
Since 2013, the Central African Republic has been marred by sectarian violence. France deployed 2,500 soldiers to try and quell the situation with the Singaris operation. But French troops have been unable to stem the flow of Muslim residents fleeing the country. The French military's image has also been tarnished by multiple allegations of child rape. Now that the UN is beefing up its peacekeeping force to 10,000 soldiers, France has decided to pull out some of its troops.
I can confirm that the Singaris mission will end in 2016.
After the pullout, France will maintain its €30 million aid program aimed at funding economic projects and paying civil servants.
Well, the French leader is en route to Nigeria for a regional summit focused on stamping out Boko Haram. The Islamist militant group has killed more than 20,000 people since 2009. Also at the table this Saturday, diplomats from the US, the UK, and 3 countries that have been targeted by the jihadists: Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. Now, a woman at the top of an organisation dominated by men. FIFA has named its first ever female Secretary General. Veteran UN diplomat Fatma Samoura from Senegal will be in charge of the day-to-day running of world football's governing body. Under new reform, she'll have more powers than the FIFA president, meaning Samoura has the most important job in world football. While she replaces Jérôme Valk in February, he was banned from all football-related activity for 12 years. Indeed, it's been a rocky 12 months for FIFA, which has been caught up in several corruption scandals. He's broken a world record. The captain of Rwanda's national cricket team batted in the nets for a whopping 51 hours. Eric Duzingizimana was raising money towards building his country's first international cricket ground. Well, I know cricket is a lengthy game, but that just takes the cake. Well, the amazing thing is that he didn't even stop for a tea break. And finally, fusing traditional African rhythms with contemporary sounds, French-American DJ and producer Benjamin Lebrave also hopes to bring together Anglophone and Francophone African cultures through music. Well, he joins me in the studio this evening. A very good evening to you, Benjamin. Thanks for being with us here on Eye on Africa. Now, you're currently promoting your latest project, Mabisi. It's the collaboration between a rapper from Burkina Faso and a respected musician from Ghana. Tell us more about the project and the song that was recently released.
So Art Melody, the rapper from Burkina Faso, is a rapper I've been working with for a few years now. And he expressed his desire to kind of reconnect with more acoustic and in some ways traditional music. And luckily, I was able to pair him with Steve Atambere, who's a musician. He plays an instrument called the korogo from northern Ghana. And the two met in Accra and completely connected. And were able to create kind of this bridge between, as you mentioned, Anglophone and Francophone Africa, also between much more traditional kind of rural sounds. And both of them having been brought up in major cities and exposed to different styles of music. And they've both traveled the world. So they really fused that with kind of their global, urban and modern vision.
Well, it sounds fantastic. Speaking of Ghana, you moved there in 2011. You founded the music label Aquaba, hoping to shine the spotlight on contemporary African music. A lot of people have a certain idea of what that is. How do you describe it?
I mean, I mainly describe it through its diversity. I think Africa is an enormous continent. Within each country, there's an enormous diversity in music. So really what I'm trying to do is widen the visibility of other things that we're not really accustomed to seeing outside of Africa or outside of each individual country.
Why did you choose Ghana as your base?
Many reasons, but I love Ghana. I love the music there. I love the people. I think it has great potential. It's a nice place to live in, easy to access, easy to travel to and from. I love West Africa as well. I mean, there's many reasons.
I have to say, that song we're seeing in the background, I love that song, but that's not from Ghana, I believe. I believe that's a Kole la Petite. I believe that's from a Cameroonian.
Yeah.
Right. There is Al-Qaeda Guru.
Yeah,
not to be confused with Al-Qaeda. That's from Ghana. I love that song. How do you attract new audiences for the music that you're creating? Sort of, what are the challenges of reaching out to audiences, to listeners who may not be familiar with it?
I mean, I think there's general challenges as to how to market and distribute music. The game is changing really rapidly. But I think it's also opening up a lot of new opportunities. For instance, young people in Ghana are very much connected to the internet, and that offers a whole breadth of opportunity. But I think it's more generally changing the perception, changing what people expect. And a lot of the times, I don't even market the artists I work with as African. On the contrary, I try to prove to people that it doesn't really matter where they're from. They're just doing music that's relevant no matter where you live.
The song's catchy, the music's good, and that's all that really matters, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, Benjamin, thanks so much for being with us here again on Eye on Africa. That was Benjamin Lebrave. Well, we'll leave you with a clip of the song Awine by Mabisi. Stay tuned for more news here on France 24. Live from Paris is back after this.
People and profit.
Business news is not about numbers, nor percentages and statistics. Business news is about people and how we live our lives. People and Profit goes beyond numbers to analyze how the global flow of money and profits shape our world. Intelligent and accessible, the show cuts across business, economics and politics.
People and Profit on France 24 and France24.com.